In this lesson, we'll take a look at the navigation toolbar, which is the toolbar at the top of the browser that gives you access to all of the configuration options available in an out-of-the-box Drupal installation. The navigation toolbar is the black menu that you see at the very top of your browser when you're logged in as an administrative user. You will also see this toolbar if you're logged in as a content editor or any other role that has been given permission to make use of this navigation toolbar by the administrative user. One of the things that really puts Drupal 8 ahead of previous versions of Drupal is the mobile-friendly configuration menu. And we're going to take a look at that configuration menu and what mobile-friendly means by moving over to Safari, a different web browser that I have open here. Okay, so we're now looking at Safari where I have an extension installed, and that extension is called Responsive Resize. And I'm going to click on it to enable it. And you'll see that it gives me a number of pixel dimensions that I can use to take a look at this site at different sizes. And if I click on any one of those, it will resize the browser for me. 768 is a pretty good example of a tablet size. We'll click on that. And if we drop down to 480, that's starting to get into the mobile layout. Now, as I'm clicking on these, you're seeing changes in the navigation toolbar, including the way that it displays. So let's go back to 768, and you'll see that we have the icon and we have the text next to it. If I click on 320, now we're seeing just the menu and we're seeing the icons but not the text. If I collapse the menu, we see the site and it is a mobile-friendly site. If I go back to full screen and then expand the menu, now it all lays out at the top. So this is mobile-friendly, and that's really helpful for the content editors who are working on the site. This is also a good indication that everything about Drupal 8 has mobile first in mind. Okay, so now I'm going to head back to Chrome and we're going to walk through the options that are available in the configuration menu. First, there are 4 options available in the black navigation toolbar. The 3 on the left, Manage, Shortcuts, and what is currently labeled TC4A, because this is the user account that we're logged in as, give you access to tools within the configuration. And we're going to go through each of those. The 4th option, which is all the way over on the right-hand side, is a toggle. And let's take a look at that really quickly. Mouse over here and click on that toggle. And when I do that, you'll see little pencil icons appearing all over the interface. Let's take a look at a couple of those by mousing over them. So here's one, and here's another, and here are 2 more next to each other. And we'll look at those a little bit later as well. I'm going to click that toggle again just to clean up the interface a little bit. Okay, so let's start with the Manage section of the configuration options available to us. When I have Manage selected, the bar underneath shows content, structure, appearance, extend, configuration, people, reports, and help. We're going to take a look at each of these. And it's really good practice when you start working with a Drupal site, especially as you download new versions, which might have new elements within them, or you install new modules, which might change your configuration menu, to just go through each section and see what's in there, because that will give you a lot of information about how to use Drupal. Starting with content, I'm going to click on this. The content section gives you the ability to add content. It gives you the ability to look at existing content and to filter that existing content in different ways. We've been through this page in a few lessons, and we will continue to come back to this because this is really the heart of your site, because a website is really about the content that exists within that site. There are 2 other tabs on this page, Files and Comments. Files will give you access to anything that's been uploaded to the site, such as an image or a PDF, or if you have other file types that you're accepting. And you can use this to manage those files, or at least to find out where they are used in your site so that you know whether or not a file is orphaned, and you can find out what nodes a file is attached to. The Comments tab allows you to access comments on your site, to find out if any of those comments need to be reviewed and approved, and also to find out which pieces of content a comment exists on, as well as who authored that comment and when that comment was made. Moving on to the Structure tab, this really gives you access to the heart of your Drupal site. The ability to change the layout on your site, to add content types. We've gone over article and page content types, the default out of the box content types on your Drupal site. But you can create your own content types, and those forms will look different from the article or basic page content forms that we've already been looking at. And they'll behave differently because you will set them up to behave in your customized format. So I like to consider the structure section really the building blocks of your site. Block layout gives you access to add or change the blocks on your site and to place them in various regions. And we'll go through this extensively. But essentially, blocks are chunks of content or information or embedded code on your site that are separate from the content itself. And going back, comment types allow you to change the comment forms. You can actually have comment forms that, say, require an image or that ask the user for a very specific type of information or perhaps give them multiple choice. So this is where you'll access that. Contact forms are where you can set up specific forms that can be used to contact someone through your site. For example, you might have a book our services form on your site, and you might use contact form to do that. And this is where you might create new content types, which we will definitely be doing for this site. We will spend a lot of time here because this is a very important tool for customizing your Drupal site and really making it do what you need it to do. The types of content that we're going to be adding include recipes, which are going to have meal type and ingredients fields. We're also going to be adding events, which are going to have date and location fields. Display modes. This is an incredibly powerful element of your structure options in your configuration because this gives you the ability to set up how your content will display and to create different displays for different purposes. So we're also going to be spending a lot of time in here in customizing the look of your site and how the content is provided to the user. Scrolling down here, menus are very important. This is your site's navigation. This is also where we can add links and change the order of items in our menus. Taxonomy is another important element of your Drupal site and of customization, and we're going to be spending a lot of time here as well. This is a tool for categorization of content, and it's very useful for setting up searching, for optimizing for search engines, and for creating a navigation system for your site that makes a lot of sense to users, making it easy for them to find the information that they're looking for. The final option here is views. This is another area that we are going to be spending a lot of time in this course because views are the heart of how your content gets displayed on your site. Views are queries that list out content based on very specific parameters. And these are really important for making your content easy to find and providing a logical structure for your site. So the structure section of your site in general is an area that you are going to spend a lot of time. Moving on to appearance. Appearance is where you manage what Drupal calls themes. Other content management systems might refer to themes as skins or designs. This is the visual component of your site. This is what your site looks like, the colors, the fonts. This also controls some aspects of layout. So if we take a look here under List, we'll see the default themes available to out-of-the-box Drupal, including the one that we've been looking at so far that has the nice blue bar at the top and the pretty tabs. And if I scroll down, you'll also see what we look at when we're seeing the administrative pages. If I keep going, you'll see some uninstalled themes or one uninstalled theme. And you'll notice from the screenshot that it looks very different. It's very bare bones. This is where you're going to control contributed themes that you've installed or custom themes that you have created and added to your site yourself. It's important to remember that the appearance of your site, the theme, is something that is typically very important to clients because it's what the end user sees, and it's something that a client can really understand. Clients will understand and love selecting fonts and colors. At the end of the day, however, this is one of the easiest things to switch. So the configuration, the structure, the content structure of your site, the way that the views are set up, all of this is the foundation upon which your Drupal site is built and how your content is given to the users. And the theme, if you're thinking in terms of a house, it's just the paint and maybe a couple of frills along the edges, maybe your baseboards, the things that make it look nice, the paintings, the things that make it look like a home. So scrolling back up here to the options that we have available, there's a Settings tab under Appearance. This controls the display of some of the key elements in your theme that will actually be part of any theme that you set up, which includes the logo and the site name and some other options that we will be going into when we do the lesson specifically on theming. Moving on to Extend, this is where you're going to add new modules or enable modules that are part of core but disabled in the default out-of-the-box installation. You can also use this area to update modules if there are security updates and to uninstall modules that you have decided that you're not going to use. Moving on to configuration, this is where you're going to set up the overarching settings for your Drupal site, such as your site title, or the caching settings on your site, such as performance settings. This is also where you're going to set up your file system settings and the text formats that are available to your content editors. Moving on to people, not only is this where you're going to manage the users that have access to your site, it's also where you're going to set permissions for what those users can do, and you're going to set up user roles. Permission settings are set up based on the user roles, and then individual users are assigned user roles so that they can have access to the permissions designed for that specific role. And we will go over this in a lesson as well. The Reports tab is very helpful because it gives you access to status reports on your site, including updates that might be available or log messages. If you're seeing a lot of issues with your site, you might look at the log messages to help you identify where those issues are coming from so that you can fix them. The Help tab is a fun one because it gives you access to a lot of documentation. This documentation is created by the community and is a great place for you to get started as a community contributor, because as you're working on your Drupal site, you might find that some documentation isn't quite as helpful as you need it to be, and you on your own might figure out the solution to something that might be missing. And when that happens, you can then go back into the documentation yourself and update that documentation so that it can be more helpful to the next person who comes along and has the same experience that you might have had. Looking at the next option in the black bar, Shortcuts. This gives you quick access to sections of the Manage area that you might want to spend a lot of time in. So by default, there's Add Content and All Content because presumably you're going to be spending a lot of time with your content. You can manage the shortcuts yourself, and we're going to take a look at that in another lesson. The next tab, TC4A, is your user account, and it'll have your username next to the user icon. This gives you the ability to view your user profile, edit your user profile, and log out. So this is a really handy section for you to manage the way that you might display on your site if your site has a community aspect and user profiles are important. But it also makes it easy for you to edit your password, which is obviously very important. You want to make sure that your password is always very secure. Finally, at the beginning of this lesson, we looked at the toggle on the far right-hand side that looks like a pencil. I'm going to go back to the home page here and then click on that toggle again. This is called Quick Edit and gives you access to edit your content in line. So if I mouse down here to this particular piece of content and click the little pencil icon here, the little Quick Edit icon, I can choose Quick Edit, and now I can actually make changes to the content without going away from my home page. Close out of that and turn off Quick Edit. In this lesson, we reviewed the navigation toolbar, which gives you an overview of all of the configuration options that you have available to you on your Drupal site with an out-of-the-box install.